The world you were told about as a child does not exist. You were told that if you are kind, the world will be kind back. You were told that hard work is always rewarded and that the good guy always wins in the end. But as you grew older, you began to notice the cracks in that mirror. You saw the loud, the manipulative, and the strategically cold climb the ladders of success, while you, with your honesty and empathy, remained at the bottom. You felt the sting of betrayal from someone you trusted, only to realize they had been playing a game you didn't even know existed. This isn't a video about being evil. It's about a realization that beneath the surface of every polite smile, every corporate handshake, and every social gathering, there is a silent current of power. Niccolò Machiavelli, a man whose name has become synonymous with ruthlessness, once said, "A man who wishes to make a profession of goodness in everything must necessarily come to grief among so many who are not good." If you choose to remain blind to the laws of human nature, you are not being virtuous, you are being a victim. Today, we peel back the skin of social reality. We explore the Machiavellian mind. Not to turn you into a predator, but to ensure you never become the prey again. To master social survival, you must first accept a brutal truth. All human interaction is a form of negotiation. Whether it's a conversation with your boss, a debate with a partner, or a meeting with a stranger, there is always an exchange of value, status, and influence. The Machiavellian mind understands this instinctively. While others are distracted by the words being said, the strategist is looking at the intent behind them. The first rule of survival is the control of internal waters. Most people are slaves to their emotions. They react to insults, they melt under flattery, and they let anger dictate their moves. In the eyes of a strategist, an emotional person is a predictable person, and a predictable person is easy to control. To have a Machiavellian mind is to build a wall between your feelings and your actions. You must learn to feel the fire within, but keep your face as cold as stone. In any room, the most powerful person is often the quietest. Why? Because they are gathering intelligence. They are watching who leans in when someone speaks, who avoids eye contact when a difficult question is asked, and who is desperately seeking validation. Before you can influence the world, you must read it. You must become a scientist of human behavior, stripping away the masks of others while keeping yours firmly in place. Machiavelli famously taught that a leader must be both a lion and a fox. The lion is needed to frighten the wolves, the blunt force of character and authority. But the lion is often caught in traps. That is why you must also be the fox, to recognize the traps before they spring. In modern society, we don't carry swords. Our traps are invisible. They are hidden in contracts, in subtle social exclusions, and in passive-aggressive comments. Survival requires you to know when to roar, but more importantly, when to move in silence. By the time this journey ends, you will see the world through a different lens. You will stop asking why people are unfair and start asking how they are motivated. This is Act 1 of your transformation. The illusion is broken. The game has begun. Now, let us go back to where it all started. To the dark corridors of 16th century Italy, and the man who dared to write down the truth that kings wanted to keep secret. To understand the mind of the strategist, we must first travel back to a time when the world was literally on fire. 16th century Italy was not the romantic landscape of art and poetry we imagine today. It was a brutal battlefield. City-states fought each other for a few miles of land. Popes led armies like generals. One day you were a citizen of a republic. The next, you were the subject of a conquering king. In this world of shifting shadows, a man named Niccolò Machiavelli was watching. Machiavelli wasn't a soldier. He was a diplomat. For 14 years, he stood in the courts of powerful kings and corrupt popes. He saw them make promises they never intended to keep. He saw them sacrifice their closest allies for a moment of advantage. He realized that those who survived and thrived were not the ones who followed the rules of morality. They were the ones who understood the grammar of power. But here is the turning point that changed his life, and will change yours. In 1512, Machiavelli's world collapsed. The republic he served was overthrown. He was accused of conspiracy, thrown into a dungeon, and tortured. They hung him by his wrists, hoping to break his spirit. Most men would have emerged from that cell broken and bitter, but Machiavelli emerged with a vision. He realized that the ideal world we are taught to believe in is a trap that makes us easy to destroy. Exiled to a small farm, far from the center of power, Machiavelli spent his nights writing. He wrote a book that was never meant for the public. It was a gift for a prince, a manual for survival. He didn't write about how a leader should behave in a perfect world. He wrote about how a leader must behave in the real world. His central thesis was a punch to the gut of traditional ethics. The gap between how we live and how we should live is so wide that a man who neglects what is actually done for what should be done will learn his ruin rather than his preservation. Think about your own life. How many times have you been shocked by someone's unfair behavior? How many times have you felt like a good person lost to a bad person? Machiavelli would tell you, stop being shocked. Start being prepared. This brings us to a concept that many find controversial, yet it is the foundation of social survival: the morality of necessity. Machiavelli argued that in times of crisis, or when dealing with those who are ruthless, following standard morality is actually immoral, because it leads to your destruction and the destruction of those you protect. If you are a manager and a toxic employee is destroying your team's morale, being nice isn't kindness. It's a failure of leadership. If you are in a negotiation and you reveal all your cards out of honesty, you aren't being virtuous, you are being irresponsible. Machiavellian survival is like surgery. A surgeon must sometimes cut to heal. To the untrained eye, it looks like violence. To the strategist, it is a necessary action to ensure the survival of the whole. You must learn to distinguish between cruelty that is used well and cruelty that is used poorly. Cruelty used well is swift, decisive, and serves a purpose. It ends the conflict quickly. Cruelty used poorly is slow, emotional, and never-ending. In his exile, Machiavelli looked back at the people who had betrayed him. He realized they weren't monsters. They were simply players, following their own self-interest. This is the ultimate secret of the Machiavellian mind. Everyone is playing a game. The coworker who takes credit for your work, they are playing the game of visibility. The friend who only calls when they need something, they are playing the game of resource acquisition. The boss who gives vague feedback, they are playing the game of avoiding accountability. When you stop judging people for their nature and start analyzing them for their interest, you become untouchable. You no longer take things personally. Anger is replaced by data. Hurt is replaced by strategy. Machiavelli's life was a tragedy, but his legacy is a shield. He didn't write The Prince to create tyrants. He wrote it so that the good would no longer be defenseless. Now that we have built the historical foundation, it is time to look at the pillars of your own survival. In the next act, you will break down the specific tools you need to navigate the modern world. Prepare yourself. We are moving from the history of power to the practice of it. History doesn't remember the people who were merely nice. It remembers the people who were effective. To survive in a world filled with competing interests, you cannot rely on luck. You must build a structure within yourself, a set of strategic pillars that will support you when the ground beneath your feet begins to shake. These aren't just tips, they are the fundamental laws of social survival. The first and most important pillar is the mastery of internal waters. In the Machiavellian mind, emotions are considered noise. Anger, fear, and even excessive joy are vulnerabilities that others can exploit. If I can make you angry, I can control you. If I can make you afraid, I can lead you. Strategic detachment is your armor. When someone insults you or tries to provoke you, they are fishing for a reaction. By reacting, you give them exactly what they want, your energy and your focus. The strategist practices the 2-second rule. Before responding to any emotional trigger, you pause for 2 seconds. In those 2 seconds, you move the information from your emotional brain to your rational brain. You ask, what does this person want from my reaction? And how does my reaction serve my long-term goal? If the reaction doesn't serve the goal, you discard it. You stay as calm and unreachable as a deep ocean. Information is the currency of power. Machiavelli understood that he who knows the most about his opponent is the one who will eventually win, even if they have less physical force. Most people talk to impress. The strategist listens to uncover. In every social circle or workplace, there is an undercurrent of truth that is never spoken aloud. To find it, you must practice strategic listening. This means talking 20% of the time and listening 80%. Ask open-ended questions that allow others to brag or complain. People love to talk about themselves, and in their vanity, they reveal their thumbscrews, their insecurities, their hidden alliances, and their secret ambitions. The Machiavellian mind treats every conversation as a scouting mission. You aren't just hearing words, you are mapping the battlefield. We are taught that honesty is the best policy. But in the high-stakes game of survival, total transparency is total vulnerability. The third pillar is the management of perception. You must be a master of the mask. This doesn't mean being fake in a petty way. It means being intentional about what the world sees. Machiavelli argued that the vulgar are always taken by appearances. Most people judge you based on the image you project. If you appear desperate, people will take advantage of you. If you appear too perfect, people will envy and sabotage you. The strategist creates a calculated persona. You reveal enough to seem human and relatable, but you always keep your true intentions hidden in the shadows. Think of it like this. If you are planning a major move, you don't announce it, you distract. You talk about one goal while quietly working toward another. By the time they realize what you've done, the game is already over. The final pillar is the execution of strategy. There is a common misconception that Machiavellians are always aggressive. In reality, they are remarkably patient. They wait, they observe, they gather intelligence. But when the moment of necessity arrives, they act with a speed and finality that leaves no room for recovery. Machiavelli famously noted that men ought either to be well treated or crushed. If you strike an opponent but only wound them, they will spend the rest of their lives seeking revenge. This translates to your modern life. If you have a conflict, resolve it completely. If you are setting a boundary, make it absolute. Do not go halfway. Half measures only prolong the pain and increase the risk. Whether it is leaving a toxic relationship, firing an employee, or confronting a rival, you must move with the precision of a surgeon. Cut once, cut deep, and ensure the wound is healed so you never have to deal with it again. These four pillars, emotional control, intelligence gathering, perception management, and decisive action, form the skeleton of the Machiavellian mind. But there is one final secret that holds them all together: purpose. Without a goal, these strategies are just empty manipulations. But with a purpose, they become the tools of a master who understands that in a world of wolves, the greatest virtue is the strength to protect your own vision. We have analyzed the pillars in theory. Now it is time to bring them into the 21st century. In the next act, we will enter the modern battlefield, the boardrooms, the digital landscapes, and the complex web of modern relationships. The principles are 500 years old. The application is happening right now. The battlefield has changed. We no longer fight with steel and cavalry. We fight with emails, reputation, and silent influence. The castles are now glass office towers, and the kings are CEOs and algorithms. In this modern landscape, the lion, who roars too loudly, is quickly silenced by HR departments and public shaming. The fox, who is too obvious, is exposed by digital footprints. To survive today, you must be a ghost in the machine. You must master the art of being powerful while remaining invisible. In the workplace, the greatest trap is believing that merit alone will save you. Hard work is the entry fee, but strategy is the winning move. The Machiavellian strategist understands the law of upward management. Your boss is not your friend. They are a gatekeeper of your progress. To manage them, you must make them feel secure. As Robert Greene teaches, never outshine the master. If you make your boss feel brilliant, they will pull you up with them. If you make them feel threatened, they will quietly find a way to replace you. Look beyond the official organizational chart. Power rarely flows through the lines of the hierarchy. It flows through the informal networks, the coffee breaks, the private chats, the long-standing alliances. The Machiavellian mind maps these hidden currents. Who does the CEO actually trust? Who is the silent advisor that everyone listens to? By positioning yourself at the center of these information hubs, you gain power that no job title can give you. We live in an era of radical oversharing. Most people use social media to vent their emotions, reveal their vulnerabilities, and broadcast their every move. To a strategist, this is like walking onto a battlefield without armor. Your digital presence is your modern mask. Every post, every comment, and every photo is a brick in the wall of your reputation. The Machiavellian strategist practices selective revelation. You do not show the world who you are, you show the world what you want them to believe. If you want to be seen as a leader, you post about vision and discipline. If you want to be underestimated, you post about hobbies and mundane tasks. The key is to never let the algorithm, or your rivals, predict your next move. In a world where everyone is shouting for attention, your silence and mystery become your most magnetic assets. It is uncomfortable to discuss, but even in our closest relationships, friendships, family, romance, the laws of power are active. We often confuse vulnerability with honesty. Total honesty is a luxury few can afford. In relationships, the person who cares the least holds the most power. This is the law of dependence. If you give away 100% of your emotional security to another person, you have handed them a weapon that can destroy you. Seduction, as Machiavelli and Greene describe it, is not about trickery. It is about maintaining desire through distance. By always keeping a small part of yourself unreachable, you keep the other person intrigued. You must set boundaries like a king sets borders. A boundary is not a threat. It is an invitation to respect. When you say no and mean it, you aren't being cold. You are being Machiavellian. You are ensuring that your presence remains a privilege, not a commodity. In modern warfare, you cannot survive alone. But the Machiavellian mind understands that alliances are temporary, but interests are permanent. Never trust a friend who has no reason to be loyal. Instead, build your relationships on a foundation of mutual interest. When you help someone, make sure it is clear how their success is tied to yours. This creates a bond far stronger than loyalty. It creates a bond of necessity. When you are attacked in the modern world, whether it is a bad review, a public insult, or a workplace rumor, your instinct will be to defend yourself immediately. Do not. The Machiavellian response is strategic silence followed by calculated action. If you react with anger, you look guilty. If you react with silence, you look powerful. You wait for the storm to pass, gathering your facts, and then you strike at the source of the problem, with a precision that leaves no trace of your anger. Remember, in the 21st century, the person who controls their reactions controls the room. We have navigated the pillars. We have survived the modern battlefield. We have mastered the mask and the mirror. But now, we must face the final and most difficult truth: the choice between who we are and who we must become. In the final act, we look at the paradox of power. We ask, is it possible to have a Machiavellian mind and still keep your soul? Prepare for the conclusion. The truth is closer than you think. We have traveled through the smoke of 16th century Italy and navigated the glass labyrinths of the modern boardroom. We have learned to control our emotions, gather intelligence in silence, and wear the masks that society demands. But as we reach the end of this journey, a final, haunting question remains. Does mastering the Machiavellian mind mean losing your soul? Most people fear power because they associate it with corruption. They believe that to be good is to be harmless. But there is a profound difference between being a good person and being a harmless person. If you are harmless because you don't know how to be dangerous, you aren't virtuous. You are simply weak. True virtue comes from having the capacity for great power and choosing to use it with precision and purpose. This is the paradox of power. To protect what you love, your family, your vision, your integrity, you must understand the tools of the predator. You must know how the game is played, not so you can destroy others, but so the world cannot destroy you. The path of the strategist is a lonely one. When you stop reacting emotionally, when you start seeing through the masks of others, you lose the comfort of naive belonging. You see the world for what it is, not what you wish it to be. This clarity is a burden. It requires you to make decisions that others will not understand. It requires you to be the one who stays calm when everyone else is panicking. Machiavelli didn't write for tyrants. He wrote for those who wanted to build something that lasts. He understood that a beautiful garden cannot survive in a desert without a strong wall. Your values, your kindness, and your dreams are the garden. The Machiavellian strategies we have discussed are the wall. Without the wall, the garden is trampled. Without the garden, the wall is just a cold, empty structure. Your transformation is now complete. You have moved from being a passive observer of human nature to an active participant in its laws. Remember the 3 stages of your evolution. Awareness, seeing the silent current of power in every room. Preparation, building your internal pillars of emotional control and intelligence. Mastery, using the mask and the mirror to navigate the world with purpose. The ultimate Machiavellian secret is this: power is not the goal. Influence is not the end. They are simply the means to ensure that your life remains your own. In a world of wolves, don't be a sheep. And don't just be a wolf. Be the one who understands the nature of both and chooses a higher path. If you have made it this far, you are no longer the person who started this video. You now possess a lens that few people dare to look through. Use it wisely. Use it with intent. To help you implement these strategies in your daily life, I've prepared the Modern Machiavelli Blueprint. It's a step-by-step guide to reading people, setting boundaries, and mastering social survival in the 21st century. You can find the link in the description below. The laws of human nature are eternal. The question is, will you be the one who follows them or the one who masters them? The choice is yours. Thank you for watching.